It's with great pleasure that we welcome you to another edition of our magazine program, Press Hour. A time check from Cameroon's implementation of COVID-19 barrier measures on March 18 shows that the fight against the pandemic has been on for 132 days. This far, a total of 16,708 cases have been recorded, 14,539 recovered cases have been recorded, and 385 deaths have been registered as at the weekend that just ended. 132 days on, what is the score of the health battle Cameroon versus coronavirus? That is our focus on the program today. We are also going to talk about the use or misuse of the mobile telephone and its impact on security. Is it a threat to security? Watch out on Press Hour today, and to discuss these topics, I have the following panelists. Some of them really familiar with you, and some of them you discover. I'm going to start with you at the extreme left, Dr. Joseph Fokam. Dr. Joseph Fokam is a virologist, and he works at the Chantabia International Reference Center, CIRCB Yaoundé. Welcome to the program, Doctor.
Thank you, Kilian, and good morning to your millions televiewers.
And just next to you, to my left, is another doctor, Dr. Eric Tandy, public health doctor in the Ministry of Public Health. You watch him on everything concerning coronavirus. They are following the virus on minute-by-minute basis. Welcome, Doctor.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kilian, and welcome to everyone on the panel.
Yes, a colleague of mine, Ngonenge Swaibu Shari, who has gone around the country, just back from Bamenda, where we know the state of security in that region and also the southwest region. He has been there battling out as the soldier of the microphone. He's going to particularly talk about the security problems there when it comes to telephone and the use of mobile telephone. You're welcome.
Thank you, Kilian. Good afternoon to our viewers.
Yes, talking about security also, we have somebody, Honorable Francis Enwe-Abi, who, Honorable is a politician. He is an expert in strategy, defense, security, conflict, and disaster management. Honorable, welcome to the program.
Oh, it's my pleasure of being here with you.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to kickstart the program with the first thing that we have, the week in review. In our slot, press review. Emanuela Vemnui is a lady on the beat. Emanuela?
Press men and women were on duty this week as always, keeping their readers on the know. SDO sparks chieftaincy crisis in Goketunjia on the Guardian Post and is dragged to court for meddling in chieftaincy matters on the Herald Tribune as villagers at war with SDO Ketong Henderson for cancelling decision recognizing chiefdom on Newswatch. Then Amber boys executed in Babesi for torturing Prince to death on the Horizon newspaper. When the Guardian Post questions independent struggle or Amber war against Anglophones, the ICC says incompetent to prosecute BR top military officials. On the Guardian Post, soldiers invade Awing Pinyin, neutralize 15 separatist fighters, recover 22 cows. On the Voice newspaper. Then Siseko Ayok and co-defense team braces for showdown at prison premises on the Voice newspaper. The Guardian Post presents those government must dialogue with to end crisis in the northwest and southwest at a time 2.3 million people in the two regions in peril as the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs threatens suspension of activities on the Star newspaper. UN threatens to suspend humanitarian operations on Newswatch if certain conditions are not met. Then Bishop Emmanuel Boshu dissects CUBE's internal wrangling, Anglophone marginalization, BR reconstruction plan on the Post newspaper. The Guardian Post writes, Pastor orders public flogging of old men accused of witchcraft in the Central region when youths petition Prime Minister protest against auctioning of government's hospital in Limbe. On the Post Weekender, ministers clash over ceding of government health facility on the paper as mass arrest takes place in Douala after gendarme dies in scuffle over 100 francs on the horizon. Cabinet ministers tasked to fight socio-economic impact of COVID-19 on the Herald Tribune. At the time, there is big news from Malabo on Cameroon, Equatorial Guinea cross-border defense and security on the median. To the Crown, Cameroon, Equatorial Guinea embracing peace for their peoples. Then Biya orders privatization of CAMEROON at last on the Horizon newspaper as government makes the putting in place of the decentralization code clear on Cameroon Tribune. The Minister of Post and Telecommunication calls chairperson of RT to order over corruption-infested recruitment on the Post Weekender. Cameroon Tribune reports on Yaoundé and London's Union for Peace and Security before announcing the launch of the 2020 session of official examinations. To the Post newspaper, despite COVID-19 scare, First School Living Certificate SEP Before we end our press review, let's tarry a little bit on this mass abortion network uncovered in Yaoundé. Rights activist Polycarp Atangana says at least 20 girls have died, 300 fetuses aborted within 5 years. According to his findings, a certain fifth-year gynecology student runs the network that conducts illegal abortions with the aid of sinews in public hospitals. The latest victim of the abortion network is said to be a 19-year-old student of Collège La Retraite, currently sitting the 2020 session of the baccalaureate examinations. Until I come your way again, this is your Hour with the Press.
Yes, Manuela, thank you very much. We know you're going to come our way again next Sunday, for another edition of Press Hour. Gentlemen, you followed Emanuela. She told us what the press talked about, and our topic today is to look, the first topic is to see how far we've gone with a coronavirus. Cameroon versus Corona. What's the score? I'm going to start with you, Doctor, not to give the score right now, because following our discussion, the score will come out. Some strategic and very daring moves that government made, easing the COVID-19 barriers, but standing firm. That you should be able to tell us that it was daring when people said, oh, you didn't need to do that. And today, we are where we are with no alarming situation.
Okay, thank you so much, Killian. So actually, we are already around 132 days after we started our response against COVID-19. And just by coincidence, we have also performed 132,500 testing. Wow. So in average, 1,000 tests a day in Cameroon. And this is the reason why Cameroon is among the leading countries in Africa that have a successful program against COVID-19. And that said, also in this number, we have approximately 26% positivity rate in our country. And what we have put in place to make sure we should meet up our goals with COVID-19, we have what we call the 3T. 3T is testing, tracking, and treating. So we test, we track those who are positive, and then we treat them. And because of these three key strategies, we have been able to pick up those who are positive, and we currently provide treatment for all of them who are positive. And this is one of the major reasons why, after 100 days in Cameroon, we have been able to drop down our case fatality rate to about 2%, which is far lower as compared to other African countries, and even as compared to Western countries that we know they are well developed.
Yes, we get that very, very well, Dr. Tandy Eric. Despite all those measures, we still have resistance from some people. We would have done better.
Yeah, actually, Killian, on the part of what is going on and with the statistics that have just been announced, I still very, very skeptical with, although 2.3% fatality rate has been announced, but I want to make it very clear that even if it is 0.05% fatality rate, it still counts a lot to me because every death matters. And I get worried because the population still feel very indifferent and thinks that we're getting over it, but the risk is still very high from what I perceive and see. And the government has not relented its effort in order to keep educating the population as far as the threat from coronavirus is concerned. Here we've seen the effective decentralization of how to manage COVID, and some communities and they've taken, and the leaders within these communities have taken things very serious in their hands by reinforcing sensitization and the practice of barrier measures. But yet some communities have tended to relax, perhaps because they're having more asymptomatic cases, but we should know that this is still a new epidemic or pandemic within the context of the world, and little, I should say, maybe less than 1 million of what we know about coronavirus has been documented. So we should be very careful the way we're taking this within our context. And again, the population should remember, I usually have a heavy heart to say it because I don't want to use the word indiscipline. It might sound like insulting us, but I think we've seen this within our community. Why not make a U-turn with our reason?
We should actually make a U-turn, Doctor. You are both of you have given points. If I were to score following our topic, I say those are several scores that Cameroon has already registered. But we're going to see where Corona also has hit the country as we develop the topic. Ngonenge Swaibu Shari, senior journalist in CRTV. When you go around, how do you feel seeing some of our countrymen clustering in some places without respecting the barrier measures?
Killian, thank you for giving me this opportunity. I must say that when I reached here in Yaoundé, the first thing that struck me, negatively, was the fact that people were behaving as if the coronavirus was already over. More and more people going around not bothering to wear the face masks. More and more people interacting with each other, not bothering to respect the social distance, the social distancing. And worse still, I will say this to the hearing of the Dr. Tandy here, that I even went to some health facilities and I was surprised to notice that the health personnel, some of the health personnel, if not most of them, I must be sincere with you, are sort of sending the wrong signal to the population by not protecting themselves as well. You see health personnel not wearing the face masks. Then what are they sending as message to the population?
Of course,
this is the first negative impression that I've had about people's attitude towards coronavirus here in the capital city.
Honorable Francis Enwi, do you sometimes, like some people say, I have not seen any coronavirus case? Do you sometimes doubt like them? Or do you understand them even if they are wrong?
Well, when Corona, I would say, arrived, the response from the population was a bit unique within that early stage. When people heard of some deaths and started seeing what was happening, everybody became a bit conscious. But we noticed that as the time has been going off again, there's that laissez-faire attitude among our people. And government has done all at its own level to put in place measures that would have actually kept it more than what we have now. But what I see is we, the Cameroonians, not respecting the measures that government has put in place. Just like my brother Shaibu is saying here. A couple of weeks I was in Bamenda, and I think what I saw, I was happy. When I called people, many people, majority, I mean most of them, had their masks. Though some might not be having them fully covered, but at least they were conscious of moving with masks. Mm-hmm. But when you come down to Douala, to Yaoundé, it's no man's business.
Story. Okay.
And when we see control measures that are even put, you see sometimes police will stand on the road to break people and say, where's your mask? His own is already also halfway, and so on. So there's actually some laxity amongst the population.
Okay, we're going to go deeper into these points, Honorable doctors and my colleague, Godinge Swaibu Ishari. What is the situation as seen, the global situation as seen by the Ministry of Public Service? The Minister of Public Service had a press conference this week in which he actually gave facts and figures and where Cameroon stands. And
Minister of Public Health?
Public health. Thank you very much. Of public health. British Ngum covered that story for us.
The minister told pressmen and women what is done on the field to contain the COVID-19 pandemic. He said, from the obligatory wearing of face masks to the construction of isolation centers and the purchase of medical equipment, the records are on paper and clear for transparency purposes. For now, more than 20 billion CFA francs has gone into the management of the pandemic during the last 5 months, with a bulk of the funds used to rehabilitate health structures and the acquisition of beds and medical equipment. The minister also said that sensitization against the disease is collective with 3 objectives. First, to stop community contamination. Secondly, to reduce COVID mortality. And lastly, to mitigate the impact of the disease on the health system. He also applauded health staff at the forefront of the pandemic, risking their lives to roll back the disease. A rollback of COVID that has privileged the 3 C's option of tracking, testing, and treatment. Minister Manauda wrapped up his press conference with news on the multiplication of testing centers across the regions, while insisting that in the days ahead, COVID testing caravans will pitch their tents in markets.
Yes, that's the situation as seen by the Ministry of Public Health there in a press conference presided, of course, granted by the Minister of Public Health. We're going to look at the situation around the country. We caught up with one of our reporters, Henry McCauley, in the Southwest, and he talked to the regional delegate for public health in the Southwest, who now tells us what the situation is like in the Southwest region.
149 confirmed cases of coronavirus in the Southwest region. Out of this number, 546 have recovered, and we have 36 deaths. 127 cases, Kumba 32, Tico 23, Akwaya 10, Moyuka 3, Bangem 3, Tombel and Bonge still the list with 1 confirmed case each.
Yes, that was the Southwest Region Delegate for Public Health, Dr. Ebongo Zacchaeus. And we also here, told by the producer of the program, that the Public Health Delegate for the Northwest region is on the line. He's going to give us the situation of COVID-19 in the Northwest as we speak. If we have the delegate from the Northwest, that is Dr. Kingsley Cheso. If he's on the line, please, let's have the situation in the Northwest.
The Northwest region actually joined the pandemic on the 20th of April 2020. That's when we recorded the first case, and 2 days later we decided to institute an incident management system at the Regional Delegation of Public Health. Since then, the number of cases have been increasing, but what I want to highlight here is that by the 25th week, that is the 25th epidemiological week, that corresponds to sometime around the 22nd of June, we recorded the highest number of cases per week. That was 109 cases for the week starting the 22nd of June. Since then, the number of cases have been decreasing gradually, but we are now more or less stable with an average of 50 to 60 positive cases confirmed in a week. As of today, we've recorded a total of 646 cases, and what I want to highlight here is that Bamenda Health District has recorded the highest number of cases compared to the 18 others. Bamenda alone has recorded a total of 453 cases. That is 70% of the total number of cases. And this makes Bamenda Health District the epicenter for the pandemic in the Northwest region. When you look at the other districts, we can categorize them into 3 categories. You have districts like Bafut, like Santa Kumbo East, and Fundong, which are closely followed by Bamenda, which have recorded between 15 and 100 cases. These ones, we think that we have pockets of transmission in these health districts. Now, but we have other districts like Bali, Tuba Health District, Ndob Health District, which have had between 1 and 15 cases, and these are cases that have just been imported from some other districts and from neighboring West region. And then we have 5 districts that have not recorded a case. Here we are referring to districts like Oku Health District, Ndu Health District, Nwa Health District, Benakuma, and Njikwa Health Districts.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Kingsley Cheso, Regional Delegate for Public Health in the Northwest, for clarifying, giving us the situation of COVID-19 in that region.
Pleasure has been mine. Thanks for having me.
Thank you once again. Dr. Tandy, you have been at the center of this fight here, coordination, I want to call it, center here in Yaoundé, the Emergency Operations Center. On daily basis, you know what's happening. What's the situation in the other parts of the country?
Yeah, thank you very much, Killian. You know, as staff from the Public Health Emergency Coordination Center, we receive statistics and information concerning COVID in the entire nation, including the 2 regions where we've just received the regional delegates. Just to mention that this is done on daily basis, and with the 16,000 and above cases that we've recorded is for the nation entirely. And again, I should mention here that with the 14,000 recoveries that we've recorded, we still have more than 2,000 active cases, meaning people who are living with the coronavirus within the national territory. And this coordination is done in such a way that with the decentralization process that has been effected, we try to see what are the needs at the level of the regions, because we are coordinating. We do a follow-up to see that there should be no gap, especially in terms of testing within the regions. So if there are any shortages or need from the regions, we try to make sure it is being topped within the shortest time so that we could have things documented rightly and correctly. But I heard some words like stability stepping in. I don't want to believe that there is already stability because the population might have the impression that we're getting out from COVID. But I want to think...
Don't you think they are feeling, like I said, many of them don't actually see the cases and they go around, they feel that it's, without saying that what you're saying is wrong, they don't feel the virus, they don't see it. That's what they say out there.
Yeah, based on ethics and deontology, it is not advisable for us to actually show the patients who are suffering from coronavirus. I would tell you, if there could have been a possibility, I would like you to accompany me to an emergency center and see somebody who is on oxygen. You know, you see the pains this individual is going through, and then we'll stop having this disbelief about certain things that are going within our community. And then there is also this issue of auto-medication. I think when the scientific committee put on the protocol, some people tried to use in order to abuse. You know, we insist here that for us to have careful and effective way of controlling this, it is good to seek advice rather than just reading stuff and trying to implement ourselves. Before Corona, we used to have normal flu, meaning the cough and catarrh. But with the Corona, a lot of us might think or scared that I might be having a cold and getting to the hospital will be declared Corona. No. It is only after diagnosis and the results proven positive that you could be engaged. We've seen situations where people have come to health facility with all signs and symptoms, but yet they are negative. And they are being treated for the situation they are having. So the population should not be stigmatized and get worried about this, but go for the tests as they are readily available.
Yes, before I get to the virologist, I'll stay with you from the report that we watched a while ago from BTS. There's a plan in the Ministry of Public Health which says that they're going to take it to the market squares. So that will even go beyond what we say decentralization. How would that help the situation?
Yeah, I just want to say here that it's still one of the measures because we've handed the strategy now to the population. That is one of the public health strategy in curbing a spread of a disease. You handed the sensitization and whatever preventive measures at the hand of the population. Now that we've realized that some are skeptical, we've decided to go now with a more robust method by meeting the population and obliging them to go in for the screening. And by doing this, I think it is a strategy that we're using to curb it off, because since we've advised people to stay at home as much as they can, or respecting physical distancing or using the face masks, and this is not being respected, then we should get to them and see those who are out, are you really safe or not? Then I think we can put a cutting razor on it.
Particular questions to you, Dr. Fokam Joseph. You're a virologist. The behavior of this virus, we know about HIV that has strengths. We have the more virulent strains and some others that are less virulent. Why is it behaving this way that in some places we see so many deaths, even when the people there seem to respect the rules, and in other places like ours, we don't have those deaths?
Okay, Killian, I would like to give my intervention in two stages. First, the virus, then secondly, the public health implication. Because from what you heard from the ministers, we are the one working behind the scene. And effectively, we have already done our evaluation of the 100 days after COVID-19 response in Cameroon. And what do we see in Cameroon? Now we are trying to do intervention based on our evidence-based data in Cameroon. So what are we seeing in Cameroon? First, we still have a very high prevalence of the virus. Yes. The lowest region is 15%. And this lowest region that we have in our context this should be the West region. I was very happy that you showed Bamenda, you showed Southwest. Bamenda, as the delegate Heidi mentioned, they have about 30% positivity rate, which is very high, among the highest in the country. Southwest region, they are around 27%, which is also like a moderately high rate in the country also. So we really have issues with high number of positivity, but lower rate of mortality. Why? Why? There are several reasons for this. We have been saying this also, but now we have more facts. In our context, for example, we realize our median age is around 20 years in our population. And this median age is also associated with a better immune system. This has been proven in our context. So this is why we have many people that are positive, but we have lower rate of mortality. And now where do we have the problem in our context? We have realized among those who are positive for COVID-19, there is 45% who are asymptomatic. Meaning that 45% of those who are infected, but they have no sign and symptom.
Do they transmit?
They transmit. Why? Because in this number of asymptomatic patients, we have at least half of them who have a high viral load. So they do transmit. Now, why do we recommend to do a testing in the community? Just to complement what Dr. Tandy just mentioned. Why? Because we realize the majority of those who are asymptomatic, they are less than 50 years, 1. So they are within the active population in our community, 2. And 3, what's the implication? They keep on transmitting the virus unknowingly in the community. So now what do we need to do? We need to go in those places where we have those big gatherings. For example, the marketplaces. I'll take a typical example like Mokolo Market. For example, transport agencies like Van. We go to Van and we inform them that coronavirus keeps on circulating. So we need to target those who are positive. Then why do we target them? Not because we must treat. No. Because if you are positive and you are unconscious, you will keep on transmitting the virus to the community. Yes. Okay. So those are the reasons that we know in our context we have to apply this strategy within the field. What we have also observed is that men are 2/3 more positive than women. And why? Because men are more reluctant to barrier measures. This is clear in our context. We have done the assessment. Then
let me ask you a question concerning this.
Yes.
I know of a colleague in the profession who was tested positive, living with the wife. I know even of several of them, tested positive, but the wife and children, none of them had it. How do you explain that?
Exactly.
The wife was exposed, not like she was for the measures. She was exposed but didn't have it.
Yes, technically, I mean, I just gave the first reason. The second reason also is that after looking at the barrier measures, which is more relaxed among men, we also know in terms of the biology itself, men tend to have more receptor of the virus. They call this the ACE, the angiotensin converting enzyme 2, which is the main receptor of the virus. Children almost do not have it, almost. And that's why in our context we have fewer cases of children positive and also a bit lower cases of women. So those are the two major reasons.
Now, I stay with you, Doctor. Can we say I was following the international trends and I'm told that right away there are 56 different vaccines that are under development. And by the end of the year, they're seeing on whom they are going to test. Why is the vaccine delaying? Just by having 56 different vaccines, is it a hope for the world?
Thank you. I mean, that's a really burning topic. Yesterday we had a Zoom conference on the vaccine issue. And in our vaccine tracker, actually, we have 7 key candidate vaccines. Among those 7, 2 are already at the phase 3. At the phase 3 trial. Phase 3 trials means they are already trying to evaluate, to confirm the efficacy of this vaccine. And if the efficacy is confirmed at phase 3, we hope that by fall is within September and November, we may already have some authorization use of this vaccine. And why do we have hope for vaccine against COVID? And you highly ask the difference between coronavirus and HIV. Coronavirus and HIV, they are both RNA viruses, yes, but they have different virological implications. HIV does not have a means to proofread his errors. Coronavirus is the only known described RNA virus that corrects for his error during his replication. And the reason why coronavirus is more stable.
Okay.
And because it is more stable, it is easy to design a vaccine.
Okay.
Now, we have discovered only one important mutation in the spike region of the protein, what we call the G614J mutation, that might affect the vaccine, but not yet substantially. So from the trial going on now, what we know is that everybody in this trial developed an immune response against the virus over a period of 1 to 3 months. But now we would like to know, after disappearance of the antibody, do these people still keep a memory of the immune system such that they could respond promptly once they have any subsequent exposure? This is what we need to confirm in this phase 3 trial.
Okay, well, we are very anxious to see the confirmation and know which way out. We're going to move to the next topic, but before we go to that next topic, Dr. Tandy, we have given so many positive points the government of Cameroon has scored against Corona. That's why we are at 2% almost stable. So what is it that Corona has done, the goals that Corona has scored against Cameroon?
Yeah, I think if we have to look in that case, coronavirus has reshaped the way we behave. If you could see, now we're very more conscious on how to use our hands, especially when we are in a public place. There is now proper hand washing. People are now very conscious on what they eat. I've seen people getting out from their homes and moving with small flags that carried on some products that can relieve them and keep them. And more of Cameroonians have now changed to consume local products rather than imported or artificial products, you know. And again, we're trying to be more disciplined and proactive towards instructions coming from specialists, you know. And again, I know the next topic is going to be social media as well, which has also contributed in a way that we're trying to make people to understand that social media is equally good, but it's equally bad in terms of information dissemination.
Yes.
So Cameroon has been able to orientate and reshape the way we look at things, especially when it comes to health concerns within our country and the population.
Yes, thank you very much. You didn't talk about the fact that we are giving more prominence to traditional medicine. I think that's one of the things that Corona has done. Yes, you had it. Well, since we don't have much time, we're going to move out to our next topic. We just have this breather, this transition, and when we come back, we'll be with you. Welcome back. Our next topic is security, the telephone, the mobile telephone and security. Is it fast becoming a threat by the way we use our telephone? Is it a threat or it's helping us more? That's what we are going to talk about. We're going to start with Honorable Francis Engwe. Honorable Francis Engwe is a politician. He is an expert in strategy, defense, security, conflict, and disaster management. Honorable, just to ask you this question, what threat, security threat, does the mobile telephone pose to us today?
Well, the mobile telephone systems or devices pose a lot of threat in as much as they pose a lot of benefits. You know, it's beneficial to the community and to the people and in business sector. And with the introduction of mobile telephone devices, we noticed the uptick in mobile security threats. Because
what do you mean?
Threats that came through mobile security increased.
Okay.
Because, firstly, because of ignorance. Secondly, because those who knew how to manipulate and play with information technology took advantage of that to mess up with the ignorant population out there or ignorant businesses. Secondly, we noticed that the application-based type of threats, you know, which are through downloads of applications. This one, you will notice that those of you you have Android phones. Sometimes you see very enticing applications that come up, and you click on download without knowing the implications. Some of them are traps that you've entered. And the next thing is your data is actually stolen, or people get a lot of your information.
We are going to go into that. Well, I want to see in terms of state security.
Coming now in state security, it has played a major role in state security because people have been able to infiltrate state securities through mobile phones. And people have used mobile phones to also leak out information that concerns the state security. As such, it has hammered on many governments very negatively. And as such, you've seen that over the years, governments have been passing laws, trying to implement laws that will catch up with managing this situation, and penalties allocated, with penalties attributed to the various crimes committed through the telephone network. So I think that's what I've noticed.
Yes, I'll come back to you. You are an expert in that sphere. That's why you are on the set today. Let me, just before I come to Angonenge Swaibu Shari, senior journalist in CRTV, let me give this, which is open. You can go and verify from the investigative unit of the Judicial Service of the National Gendarmerie. You have 50,000 complaints that have been tabled by Cameroonians on scamming, on cyber criminality. 50,000 from 2019 to May 2020. You can imagine that number. Shari, you are just fresh from the Northwest, where you must have been, changing your pathways. You go this way, you don't follow the same back because of the separatist activities there. You were on high risk, all of you, how we know. Situate had this telephone has been used to be a threat to security.
Certainly, Kilian, really it is a very, very interesting topic because I've really lived that experience coming, as you just indicated, from a trouble zone like the Northwest. That is almost a daily occurrence there, because hardly does a day go by without you being harassed by one person or another, calling you, threatening you, asking you to send this amount. Some call it support, or else it's always accompanied by or else. And then we have
that or else is your life is on the line.
Of course, of course. And then, Kilian, it is really traumatizing because I keep wondering, these guys are using numbers that are expected to be known today. Mobile telephone companies, they use such numbers to harass their victims. They use such numbers to even collect ransoms that people give after their loved ones are being kidnapped. And many people have been wondering, can we not, on the basis of those numbers, trace the perpetrators of such acts? How can you be sending money on a daily basis to this number? A sends it, B does it, C does the same thing, and then the people or the perpetrators, they go scot-free. What happens? We also have this situation whereby people just buy new SIM cards, slot them into their telephones, and immediately they start calling, operating, and carrying out atrocious activities with them without being perturbed in the least way.
So the providers have a role here to play.
Exactly. The population or people see them more or less like accomplices. It's like these cases where you get into a taxi, guys inside probably rooks, they are thieves, they are bandits, and they start operating, to use that popular usage, that popular word. They start operating with the connivance of the driver. The driver is behaving as if these are just guys who equally entered into his taxi, he did not know. And yet they are operating in complicity. It's more or less what many people think is happening with the mobile telephone companies. This may be an over-accusation, but what else can you say when people are using numbers of a given telephone company, it could be MTN, it could be Orange, it could be Nextel, to harass people, to make money.
Now, the problem is this. You rightly pointed out as somebody who knows that when some of these scammers, perpetrators of insecurity, using the mobile phone, call you, they say either you pay the ransom or else. That last part of the expression you make, or else, still plays on them after paying the ransom, so they are afraid to go table a complaint. And that could be where the problem is. Knowing that we have areas where you can complain. You have the police, you have the gendarmerie, you have Antique. Antique is the National Telecommunications Regulatory Agency. They have the material. Maybe we don't know that that's what we have to do, or we fear.
You are right there, Kilian. You just said it all, because the first thing, they are always quick to make it clear to you that you dare not try to go and complain. You dare not try to make any silly move, as they usually put it. But let me tell you the truth, more often than not, those who are courageous enough, many who are courageous enough and ignore the threats and ignore the whatever, and then they just stay put. They may just decide not to respond, or some may just say, okay, go ahead and do what you like.
Yeah.
They may end up not even being harmed in any way.
Yes, Honorable, what's to be done when you are hacked, when you are scammed?
The first thing is to lay a complaint at the security services. I talking here, I'm just one of them. Presently, there are scammers working on my Facebook pages and dealing with people, and they've collected more than $1 million within the past 2 months.
From
individuals.
Okay.
You know, using my name and promising certain jobs and so on. And people just fall prey and start dispatching money to somebody you don't know. And what you do is, once those type of things happen, write a complaint to the security services with the contacts that have come to you. Unfortunately as well, most of these guys, the number that they contact you with, the next thing they say, send money through this mobile money number. You will notice that the number that you are sending money, when the name appears, is not the name of the person who you were actually discussing with. We say, I'm Sam, but now you are sending money, the name on the phone there is a lady's number, who might not also be aware that they are using her information in those type of activities. So it's a bit complex, but the security services know how to manage
exactly, that's what I wanted to say, because with the security services, even from John to Mary or whoever, there is what they call history.
No, they know how to get all of those things. And
call history.
Yeah,
they can get to.
They have everything.
So what should be done? What should people who are victims do?
The first thing is complain, but we also call on the security services to always get back to the complainants. Sometimes you get to a police post or a gendarmerie, and they say sit there for maybe 1 hour, and somebody says, but okay, what am I wasting my time for? And the next thing he goes. Many don't even complain. They grumble, they cry, and they stay quiet. So once you complain, know that the security are taking measures. We also want that once the person is arrested, you should be aware. And security communication, at least communication should come out to the public fully about this, because the government should use an aggressive approach in managing the cyber criminality like they have done with COVID.
Yes.
If we turn and focus our attention like we did on COVID, on security criminality, cyber criminality and so on, within a couple of weeks, people will be fully aware. It will create a lot of awareness, and it even scared those guys who are trying to use people.
Antique, I talked about earlier on the Ministry of Telecommunications, Post and Telecommunications, has the ability, and we are also aware that security services have a way of getting to whoever, that if they don't get hold of you, don't think that you are smart.
They get them.
Now, let me come to you, Doctor. Selling of SIM cards. They're talking about competent ministers and ministries. I think the Ministry of the Minister of Territorial Administration came out not very long ago and held the providers to task to sit up and make sure that they control. They identify everybody who has a number, so that each number should be tagged to an individual, identifiable on the short notice. And I think that should be working. Doctor, When you see, I was told by somebody that somewhere you have SIM cards in the remote areas where a mobile telephone provider comes and gives SIM cards free of charge with credit. You can call for 6 months
Even in cities,
before you start paying. When you look at it, how do you feel and how can we go about reverting this?
Yeah, Killian, coming first, let me first of all say Cameroon is a state of law. And I think any telephone company that is operating within the National Triangle has to respect some of the regulations that have been put in place. I remember, but I don't know the actual article, that all SIM cards that have been issued by each telephone company has to be judiciously registered. I mean, has to be identified. So if we find perpetrators getting into this kind of act, it means that they are already operating against the regulation of the state and should be called to order. Just like Brother Ngomge rightly said, all of us have experienced this kind of issues, especially those of us coming from these two regions. And again, even though some who have been attacked and a number taken bearing on somebody's name because perhaps the person has been killed or has been stolen, the phone has been stolen, all this, the security system has to be aware. I was very happy when he mentioned that the population needs to be aware. So there should be reinforcement on information to the population. Just like we are communicating for COVID, like you rightly said, it is not only on cyber security and other things governing the states that we think the population should know. Because sometimes an old mother or somebody within a local community just receive the pain and stay and doesn't even know what step to take. So I think it is high time each individual or ministry within the state take its responsibility to sensitize the population on what they need to know, including the risks and where they need to channel the worries.
Talking about the ministries, the technical ministry is the Ministry of Post and Telecommunications. Of course, the of communication also is there, and there are 25 other ministries involved. They had an interministerial commission that was set up some time ago to solve this problem. Dr. Joseph Fokam, government should be firm on this, more on the telephone providers who go more for money than security.
Yes, Killian, I think without attempting a holistic understanding of the problem, but what I know is in Cameroon, in that interministerial setting, we have what we call the Telecommunication Regulatory Agency, which is a government agency whose role is really to make sure they should tackle out these unforeseen and unpleasant events. I think it's a big call for this telecommunication agency to make sure that they should play their role as the main government regulator, so that we shouldn't experience this context, this similar issue in our context.
Yes, before we receive Elvis Teke, who are just coming with reactions, and you should have so many. Elvis, honorable expert in security and defense strategies, Honorable Enwe Francis, tell us that all telephones, especially smartphones, have an ME number which is traceable and facilitates even traceability by security forces. What do you tell anybody should somebody buy a used phone? Because you can buy a phone from a terrorist, in the reasons of it.
Yeah, it's dangerous. If you buy a used phone from anybody in the streets, you don't know whether that phone belongs to somebody that has been killed and then sold to you. So once they'll be tracking this phone and they get it with you, you are responsible for that. So you will see thieves moving with bags of old used telephones. Where have they gotten that from? Stealing. And as such, we always warn the population. I've warned my relations, never buy a phone, a laptop of any electrical appliance from anybody in the street, because you don't know where they have gotten them. If they'll be tracking, you steal this phone and kill me here, don't think that you are free. Tomorrow they'll track this phone with whoever has bought it or you, the person.
And they will take it back to you.
And they will take it back. And you are responsible for that. So once you stop buying stolen phones, the market will be, there will no more be market, and people will look at them to be very useless.
I think that is capital. Watch out for used phones, for used material, electronic material. Even the data center in California, we have our own data center in the country here in strategic areas.
And to add one thing on the last thing on that issue of SIM cards.
Yes.
These telecommunication companies or service providers are trying to do their business. And they should not come and do business undermining the security of of the state.
There is a law.
There is a law that no card goes out without being registered. But in the streets, you see people in bars distributing cards. So government should take appropriate measures, and they have a right to stop. If people don't communicate for 1 week, what is the problem? All phone cards, all phones blocked until you go and register in person.
Thank you. I think that is well said. We are going to receive you, Teke. Elvis, good day.
Hello.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
So what do we have on our sleeves from our viewers?
Quite a good number of them, as diverging as the theme is. So we begin with Kwan Jacob, who says our testing capacity is very low. The only way to reduce the spread is to identify cases quickly and remove them from the population. Prince Mutepeme Opesa says, if we are to reduce the impact of the coronavirus, our leaders need to lead by example. And Guy Marie Goy says, zéro vaccin vendu en Afrique qui vont infliger aux jeunes Camerounais les hommes. And then Prince comes again to say, if you have to beat COVID-19, we need to lead by example. And Cho Waters Aye says, the score between Cameroon and the coronavirus is excellent on the Cameroonian side because the natality rate is low, but the rate mortality rate rather is low, and the rate of increase has dropped, even though the number keeps increasing. And we have Kelvin Cham, who says it's evident that Cameroon is doing well in the match between COVID-19, and plotting a graph Cameroon against COVID-19, you would realize that COVID-19 decreased exponentially as Cameroonians keep respecting the barrier measures. And Mary Kila Chin, who concludes this series of reactions, says the score of coronavirus and Cameroon is a big loss, as they started the real strategy very late, and it has caused a lot of destruction than good.
Well, we respect the viewers of our viewers. That should not be a conclusion, because the score from the analysis that we had here is that Cameroon is doing well. And if you were to give a mark, it's a pass mark.
Definitely a pass mark, far above average.
Okay.
Certainly, it can only be a pass mark, because when we are being told that only 2.3% of those who have COVID-19 died, then that is really some sort of good news.
Dr. Tandy?
Yeah, actually still very skeptical, but I should appreciate the effort, especially for those who have bothered to put in respect barrier measures. And again, yes, all our collaborators who are working in the field, I want to keep encouraging them that let's keep going.
Thank you, Dr. Joseph Fokam.
Yes, just very few evidence. We have prepared with many beds in the hospitals, but very few of them are occupied. It's a clear evidence that our response in the field is working. However, don't expect someone else to keep you safe, even though the government is doing all its effort to target those risk population, but the first person responsible for your health is yourself. We will keep doing our best.
Thank you very much. As you see, ladies and gentlemen, Cameroon is winning the battle against Corona. And the watchword for electronic material is, do not buy a used electronic gadget. And that government should crack down in order to identify everybody who uses these things. As for me here, concerning COVID-19, that's the measure. 1, measure 2. You do the same. Have a good day.
CRTV News, ici, toute l'info.